Hello, 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 and welcome to this week's episode of the Confidently You podcast. It's me, Helen, your host and head coach here at Fit Girl Club. Got my crop top on today, girls. It is hot. I am hot. Are you hot? Are you hot and bothered? I'm the head coach and owner of extraordinary female wellness and online health space. Gosh, I mumbled that up today, but let's leave it in because life's meant to be imperfect. We don't edit things around here. We show up and we do it anyway. Imperfect equals action. I don't know what I'm on about. Standard. Hello, welcome. How are you? How are you been? I am so good. I've had a wonderful weekend break up in Scotland. Sorry, shouldn't do the accent. Do apologise to my Scottish listeners. Up in Scotland, 3 hours drive up to the Scottish borders. My good friend Claire is in a van travelling around mainly Scotland. She started in the lake. 6 weeks she's done, and she's at the end. She's on the last week. It just goes so fast. And she kindly invited Martin and I up to join her in Coldingham. Beautiful, beautiful. I don't want to tell you about it, actually. I shouldn't tell you. No one should go there. It's awful. Stunning little bay. I'll tell you girls, but don't tell anyone else, all right? This has to be our secret. It's this stunning little bay up at Scottish borders, and it's just idyllic. Small and perfect, and it's not busy. A lovely beach because of the bay. The water's nice and calm. Now, the weather was nice when we were there. I think you get this perception sometimes when you go to these places and you're like, oh my God, how nice would it be to live here? But as someone who's travelled around the world, I always put things into perspective instead of letting my ADHD run off and say, let's look up a house, let's buy a house in Coldingham. Stunning. I would love to live there, but I reckon it rains 300 days a year. And I'm just not for that life. Not for that life. I would move to Scotland. I love everything about Scotland apart from the weather. And the midges. My goodness. I did a long trail run. We did a stand-up paddleboard on Saturday morning. How nice is this? Gone are the days of going on holiday and drinking myself to death. Stand-up paddleboard on Saturday morning, up with the birds. And then we did a trail run around the headland. Beautiful trail run. We'd done the walk the day before, so we knew where we were going. Really nice through a little village and just beautiful around a loch, and it was just all on the headland on the cliff tops. And then I stopped for a bite to eat with Martin, and then I left Martin and Claire, and I carried on and did another 10 miles because I'm a psychopath and I need to get my training in. And it was tough going because it was up and down into little bays, back up. It was beautiful, and when you're just going along at my own little pace, down into the harbour of Eyemouth, and then I was just having a lovely time until the midges and the flies. I must have straight swallowed, just didn't even touch the side, just down the gullet. Six flies. Gross. Straight down. There's no stopping. A couple have stopped and spat out. But no. And then at one point I was having to when I was coming back along the cliff top, obviously I was really sweaty. I'd done 15 miles and it was quite warm, but I was using my arms like windscreen wipers trying to get these flies off. So yeah, it's a shame. Places do have the negatives, but if it was all positives, everyone would live there, wouldn't they? It's like everywhere. And it was really quiet, even though it was bank holiday weekend and half term. There was a few people there and the car park was busy, but it wasn't overrun and everyone was polite and just nice. And, it's like sometimes when you go places. So yes, I recommend it. Get it on your bucket list, girls, to have a visit. It's beautiful up there. And we didn't really have phone signal. So that was great. I just had a really nice, relaxing time. We stayed in this quirky farmhouse place, met some chickens and some other animals and stuff. It was in an interesting stay, but we got it quite cheap. But yeah, it was good to recharge, reset, and just for a little weekend away. It's always good to get away, isn't it? And have a little downtime and proper relax. Because when I'm at home, I find I don't relax properly. I still do work. I always work. I'm always on with my girls and stuff, so it's good to get away. Anyway, how are you? Hope you're good. Hope you are coping well in this heat. My goodness. Now, today's episode, I was going to do one about heat and coping with the heat, but to be honest with you, the heat wave will be over by tomorrow. And if we get another one in summer, I will go through managing heat, but it's something we need to talk about before it happens, really. But basically, stay hydrated, look after yourself, and a walk is more than enough if you can't do a workout. And there's always an aircon gym around if you have one in the vicinity. So I wanted to talk today about something that's it's quite an in-depth topic. We're going to get a bit deep here, girls, and this will help a lot of you. Or if it's not directly affecting you, there will be some themes in it that will affect you personally, and some things that you might recognise, but it might affect a friend, and it's something that I talk a lot about in my coaching, and it's probably one of the hardest things to coach because it's so subjective to that person, like so intricate and so just personalized, and there's loads of things that come into it, so it's not an easy approach. So today we're going to be talking about emotional eating, why you do it, and how to break the cycle without shame. So here's a few things to discuss with emotional eating. So emotional eating isn't about lack of willpower. Oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough. And I know plenty of smart, capable women that struggle with food and struggle with eating, and they feel like it's a bit of a failure. But as a coach and someone that's helped hundreds of women get through this, and I've helped myself with some variety of it, I think emotional eating is on a spectrum. There's not like you've got emotional eating or you haven't. There's different levels of it, and I'll go through that in a bit. But I've helped myself through it, and it's quite understandable why we do it once you know a bit more about it. So hopefully this episode's going to help you get that education and get that understanding. And there's a difference between hunger and emotional regulation, and everyone emotionally eats sometimes. Everyone. I reckon you've all done it. Put your hand up if you've done it. Food is comfort, connection, celebration, and relief. So this episode is not about shaming or food policying. It's just about you learning what emotional eating is, and then hopefully give you some tips and tricks to overcome it. So I do think a lot of this does come from diet culture. And over the years, it's just taught us to distrust ourselves, like rules and regulations around food and good or bad food and like secret eating. And I used to go through stages where I'd eat certain things in front of people. I didn't really tend to eat in front of people. And then I'd overindulge or eat sweets or chocolate or stuff in private. Some of it does come from like, you'd get comments like, oh, you're not eating that, are you? And different things like that. And obviously, I've talked before about my therapy and where I've been on my journey. And if you've not listened to that podcast, go back to, I think it's from party girl to fitness coach or health coach, that episode. I think it was my third episode I talk about it. And obviously, when you look back at my history, a lot of things stem down to lack of self-esteem. So if I've got lack of self-esteem and I don't have the confidence to be myself, I also won't have the confidence to eat a chocolate bar in front of someone and not be worried about their judgment. So a lot of things come down to our beliefs and who we are, and using using food as a coping mechanism as well. When it comes to diet culture, restriction often creates these behaviours where we judge ourselves later. So, oh, I'm bad if I have this, I can't have that, I'm meant to be on a diet, I do this. And it's these rules around things and not allowing yourself to have stuff. So I would massively restrict. I talk about this all the time. I'd massively restrict all week and then I'd binge in private, or I'd restrict all day and then I'd binge at night in private. And it was this secret eating that often, and restriction that led to the binges. Oh, I can't have that, I won't have that, I'll just have a salad. I'll just have the salad, when really what you want is the burger and chips. And it just leads to this overcompensation. And it's this out of control. It's control, isn't it? And controlling your environment and your food intake and how your thoughts and feelings about food. And this is why it's so complex, because we're all different. We're all individual. We've all had different experiences, different upbringings, and loads of different things going on in our lives where we'll have these different thoughts and feelings around food. And I'm here just to try and help you understand yourself a little bit more. So this isn't about anyone else or what someone else does. It's about looking at your own behaviours and asking and questioning yourself and going, is that helpful for me? Or do you think I could make some changes there? Am I happy with this behaviour or thoughts or feelings? So what is emotional eating? And it's using food to soothe, numb, distract, reward, regulate, escape, or cope emotionally. Now, one thing I always talk about, and it's really funny, I listened to a podcast yesterday and it had, what's her name? Michelle out of Liberty X in. Oh my gosh, fantastic podcast. And I resonated with her so much. She struggled a lot. I didn't know this. Well, I don't know anything about her, to be honest with you, because I'm not that up on pop culture. But she struggled with addiction. And growing up, it was to do with her body and with food. And she talks about like the binge restrict, where she'd like not eat all week and then she'd go and get drunk and be hungover and then binging eating and this struggle around her body and addiction. And then she did turn to like alcohol and drugs and things. And it's funny that I listened to that yesterday, and it did really inspire this podcast today a bit, because I'm always talking about emotional eating with my girls and talking about addictive behaviours and things. And just her talking about it really brought it back home about how when it comes to addiction or coping mechanisms, I always say most people have at least one that they've learnt. Now, it might not be a good one. By that, I mean it might not be a healthy coping mechanism, but most people have one. Mine definitely used to be alcohol. I like suppressed emotions with alcohol, definitely reward, distract, numb, all of those. And obviously, I've been sober now for nearly 5 years. 5 years in, next week. Yeah, time flies. So everyone has something that they've used as a coping mechanism. And if you don't work on that and work on that something, you'll always have it. It'll always be there. But the hardest one, I think, to overcome, there's gambling, there's alcohol, drugs, loads of different things. But the worst one, I think, to overcome is food, because you can't live without food. When I wanted to work on my alcohol problem, I stopped drinking. Now, I know it's not that easy for everyone. I'm not saying it's that easy. But I can live without alcohol. I don't have to have it in the house. I don't have to have it anywhere. I don't have to go to the pub. I don't have to do anything. That doesn't bother me anymore. I can literally have drink near me or around me and it doesn't bother me. I don't want it. And I don't have cravings for it. But with food, you still have to eat. So when you're overcoming an emotional eating disorder or just emotional eating, you still have to eat. So it's that fine line of working on the problem whilst still consuming and not having a blanket. You can't just get rid of it. Getting rid of it doesn't always work. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So emotional eating exists on a spectrum. So it's from having chocolate after a stressful day, mindless snacking when overwhelmed, eating to self-soothe at night, secret eating, feeling disconnected or out of control, or blind compulsive overconsumption where it feels impossible to stop. I've worked with women on all different sides of this spectrum. One of my clients recently, when she signed up, she said, I always have sweets in the afternoon. I can't stop. It's just like a big problem for me. And what we did was looked at her eating patterns and made sure she was eating enough food during the day. And that instantly stopped that. And I kind of know now, I'm not always right, but I kind of know with most women what a good solution will be. Whereas other women could be eating really good during the day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, amazing, getting all the nutrients, get the protein, maybe a sprinkle of something they enjoy, and then boom, it hits like 8 o'clock. They sit down after a busy day, and that's it. Family size dairy milk, and then 20 bags of crisps or whatever. I know that sounds like an over exaggeration, but I have worked with women that just literally cannot stop eating, and they'll just overconsume, and in a small space of time they'll consume like 3,000 calories, and they just feel terrible for it. And it's really hard. And the difference, some things are easier to overcome and some things are a lot harder to overcome. Some people will do it every day. Some people have frequency the way they do it once a week. Some people, it'll just be like after something like a really high stressful period in their life. I have a client at the minute and she's gone through really, really busy periods, really high stress, and she was actually doing really well and coping with it. And then all of a sudden it's just come too much and it's like overwhelmed, and then she's gone back to a bit of emotional eating and it's loss of control. So not all emotional eating is an eating disorder, but it can become harmful when it feels compulsive, distressing, secretive, or all-consuming. Or if you want to lose body fat, if you want to feel better in your own skin and you're doing really well, and then suddenly you've tracked all your calories, you smash in your week, and then something stressful happens, you eat a few bars of chocolate and you've gone over your calories and you feel like a failure, and it's that spiral that we want to come out of. So why do we emotionally eat? So firstly, So the first thing to look at is restriction. So restriction creates obsession. If I tell you not to turn around and look at that purple elephant behind you, all your brain wants to do is look around at that purple elephant. You just can't stop until you see it. So banning food groups leads to overconsumption or obsession. I'm not allowed that, I'm not allowed that, I'm not allowed that. And it can lead to this secretive side of where you overconsume. Good and bad foods also increase emotional charge. Scarcity mindset. I'll start again Monday. This is my last chance. I've ruined the day. All these words that you say around how you eat. See, the thing is, you're like, well, yeah, but I want to be good and I don't want to start every Monday. So it means I shouldn't have the chocolate. Whereas the difference is allowing yourself to have stuff, you probably won't want it as much. And then the binge restrict cycle. So if you've had a day where you've gone really over your calories, then the next day you've dropped some low. I was looking at one of the girls' food diaries yesterday in check-ins, and she'd near enough done that. And I was like, just don't do that again. What you do next time is you draw a line under the day before and you start again the next day with your normal day of eating. So you've got 1,600 calories. You hit that 1,600 calories, because if you're constantly like famine or feast, it's your mindset around it that you're not fixing. So food insecurity is a mentality that's created by dieting usually. So the reason I always say to my girls that you're not on a diet is because you're not. You're on a lifestyle change. And my aim with everyone is I don't give meal plans. I don't say you eat X, Y, and Z and you lose body fat. I'd be a billionaire if I did that, because I'd have an amazing program which you'd get results and then you'd have to come back and do it again with my special secret formula. No, absolute red flag. And if anyone you know is doing that, run away, because you can get better coaching out there. I coach women. I do one-to-one coaching where I look at their lives, how they like to eat, how they eat, and then I give them a structure that's going to help them reach their goals. And from there, they'll lose the body fat, get consistent with it, eating better, feeling better, better nutrition, better vitamins, better everything, better life, better energy. When they reach their body fat goal, they then stop dieting altogether, stop it being in a deficit. They're not even dieting, it's just lifestyle change. And they don't go back to what they were eating before. They just carry on eating what they've always been eating, even when losing body fat. I'm doing inverted commas, dieting, because they'll just eat more of those foods. Like, I don't change how I eat when I want to lose a bit of body fat. I just eat less. Like recently, I wanted to do a bit of a cut, really, lose a bit of body fat that I'd put on whilst training, and I had a couple of weeks where I didn't train, and I just reduced my bread, rice and pasta and potatoes portions. That was it. Now, I make that sound really simplified. It's not simplified of that. And if you've never done it before, you do usually need help. But all this food insecurity and like, is this good? Is this bad? Can I have this? Is this not? It's just that slimming groups and all these other stupid coaches do creates this like insecurity and this mental like battle in your head. Chronic undereating can really affect emotional eating and emotional deprivation, not just calorie deprivation. So if you've never learned how to manage your emotions and you use anything, food, alcohol, anything, to deal with that, we've got a deeper issue to work on, and that comes under another guidance. This is what I mean, there's different levels. So when I get a new client, if they say they've got emotional eating, or if it comes out that they have got emotional eating, they'll always be honest with me and it'll always come out. I will then look at the different levels of it. So we'll do like a food diary, call it a food mood diary, where we track why they're doing it and when they're doing it. And I look at like patterns and reasoning, and then I delve deeper into like their self-belief and how they think about themselves and what their self-esteem's like and what their thoughts and feelings are. So it's really in depth. There's no like blanket approach fix for this. Unfortunately, if you listen to this thinking, oh, she's just going to wave a magic wand, you probably know by now it doesn't work like that. So the brain, dopamine and neurological pathways. The brain loves efficiency. So repeated behaviours create neurological pathways. And I talked about this either last week or the week before. When you get stressed and you use food as a coping mechanism, it releases dopamine and you feel relief. This is what your brain then gets wired to believe. So it's like stress equals food equals relief. It's a path. We need to break that path and we need to change that path. And that's how we overcome that instant reaction. Now, I'm making this sound really simple. It's not. It takes time and it takes effort and you have to do it. So what you need to do is when you get stressed, you'll instantly think, it's like instant food. You know, when you used to smoke, stress, smoke. Gosh, smoking's terrible. But maybe some of you still do. That's another one to break on, knock on the head. But stress, smoke, feel better. So food provides temporary comfort, stimulation and relief, especially highly palatable foods, crisps, sweets, chocolate. The brain remembers what reduces discomfort quickly. It's there to protect you. Everything's always there to protect you. Your brain's just trying to protect you. So there is parallels here with addiction. Now, I'm not saying you're a food addict or you've got addiction problems, but if you understand how addiction works, you'll also understand emotional eating a bit better. So food addiction is debated. So can you be addicted to food? Is food addictive? Is sugar addictive? Like, you're not, doing lines of sugar or anything like that. But when it comes down to like the simplicity of the brain and its reward system, I do think the difference really with like drugs and alcohol is they do change your chemical balances of your brain, whereas food doesn't actually change your brain chemistry. But those neurological pathways are very similar. But then again, you can get rid of drugs and alcohol, but you can't get rid of food. So they're different sides of the same coin. Compulsive behaviours are very real, and emotional eating can feel addictive because it's automatic, it's emotionally driven, it's hard to interrupt, and it's followed by guilt and repetition. So you're not weak, your brain is just repeating its survival strategy. So how to spot emotional eating? So do you do any of the following? Eating when not physically hungry. I think we've all done all of these, by the way. Sudden urgent cravings, feeling emotionally pulled towards food, eating very quickly, eating past fullness, eating while disconnected/numb, shame after eating, hiding wrappers or eating in secret, or saying, I deserve this after stress. The most common one for I deserve this is a glass of wine or a bottle of wine on the weekend, isn't it? Oh, I deserve this. I've been really busy and stressed. If that's your instant, if that's what you use as your instant reward, you'll always use it. So what is physical hunger versus emotional hunger? Physical hunger is gradual, it's flexible, and it's satisfied by many foods. Emotional hunger is urgent, specific, emotionally charged, often unsatisfied, even when physically full. I've done it before where you're eating past like comfort levels and you just keep on eating. The bag of ginger nuts, the packet of ginger nuts is always my example where I ate a full packet. I did not want a full packet of ginger nuts, but I just kept doing it. So first you need to identify your triggers. So emotional triggers are stress, loneliness, exhaustion, boredom, rejection, anxiety, overstimulation, feeling unappreciated, or perfectionism. Situational triggers: nighttime, being alone, after the kids going to bed, work stress, social anxiety, dieting during the day. So I've been good all day, I deserve this treat at night. Kids have gone to bed, I deserve this treat. I'm stressed from work, I deserve, add them in. Body-based triggers: undereating, lack of sleep, hormonal changes, burnout, blood sugar crashes. So by blood sugar crashes, this is usually when you've eaten something that's quite high sugar, and I've talked about this in another podcast, and it gives you this instant boost of energy, then it drops off a cliff. You ever had like a Mars bar just randomly in the afternoon and you're like full of sugar and full of energy and it just goes boom? That's why I always say add protein to things, so it gives you more stabilised blood sugar. So I want you to become curious here, not judgmental, and don't ask yourself what's wrong with me. Ask yourself, what need am I trying to meet? So if you start understanding, like, well, I'm bored at night, then you don't need food, do you? You need stimulation or something else. I'm sure if you read a book for 10 minutes, you might stop thinking about the chocolate in the cupboard. And it isn't a one-size-fits-all. The book isn't just your answer. You have to work on your own solutions that fit you perfectly. So I always discuss with my girls, and this is an activity I get all of my girls to do whenever they come with emotional eating signs or issues. So one thing I always get the girls to do is a dopamine menu, and I get them to write down 10 things that they can do when they're feeling sad, lonely, bored, tired, whatever. Feeling stressed, instead of eating. And it has to be 10 things. Now, some of them need to be quick fixes, like listen to your favourite song, put on a podcast, do 10 star jumps. Other ones are longer, like go for a walk or have a bath or clean the house or different things. I don't know, you might have a hobby, paint by numbers, crochet, do the gardening, and you write 10 things that you can use as a pattern break that don't involve food or drinking alcohol. Meditation's great, yoga, a bit of exercise, but it needs to be short, like 5 minutes of breathing. And this is something you should have written out, and you should have it available so you can just see it. Have it on your chocolate cupboard. That's even better, so that it's there when you go to open the cupboard and go, ask yourself this question: what do I need right now? And is this genuine hunger, or is it stress relief, or this relief, or pick your usual trigger? And then trying to use that. So we need to break the pattern down. The first thing you need to start working on is stopping and pausing. Just pause for a minute and ask yourself, what do I actually need right now? Do I need this? So how to start overcoming emotional eating? So first, you need to remove any shame. Shame fuels secrecy and it fuels the cycle. Just get rid of it. That's really easy for me to say, but just put it in the bin. We need to stop extreme restriction, like I said before. So if you've overeaten, draw a line under it. Let's move on back to normal eating, not restriction. Your body needs safety, and consistent nourishment matters. Because a lot of the time, it's the not eating enough and eating well enough that triggers some of the emotional eating. Increasing your awareness. So pause before eating, checking in with your body. You could journal your triggers as well. That could be one of your emotional eating dopamine menus. Becoming more aware of hunger and fullness. This is so silly when I see this on Instagram, but sometimes do you need a drink? On your dopamine menu, put down have a cup of herbal tea. Have that first. Have that first if you think it's like hunger. And then naming the emotion. So you can be like, I'm just stressed. This is how I feel, and that's okay. What can I do instead? It's not going to work all the time. First, it might work 10% of the time. But then over time, the more you practice it and the more you tell yourself, I'm going to try my best with this, not shaming yourself when it doesn't work and just moving on to the next occurrence, the more confidence you'll build in yourself to succeed. We talked about alternative regulations, so your dopamine menu, movement, calling someone, music, walking, nervous system regulation, rest, sensory comfort, boundaries, hydration, protein and balanced meals. We've talked about all of them. And acceptance. You may emotionally eat sometimes, and that's okay. All humans use comfort tools. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is awareness, choice, and reducing harm. Healing isn't becoming a robot. You don't just magically wave a wand and get rid of it overnight. It's about removing panic, guilt, and chaos and shame. So sometimes I have worked with clients, and if you're listening to this and you feel like you fall into this bracket a bit more, where it's really out of control, as in like you are consuming regularly 3, 4, 5,000 calories in one sitting, like not once in a while, like regularly, frequent binge episodes, feeling out of control regularly, purging and restricting cycles, food is consuming your thoughts, severe guilt and shame, isolation, hiding eating behaviours, and you feel like your mental health is declining. This is when I would encourage that you seek professional support. Now, you can message me and you can always reach out to me, and I'll always be there to give you guidance and comfort and just someone to listen to. My door is always open. No judgment ever. And I won't be trying to sell you my program, because sometimes my program's not the right fit for these people. And sometimes these people need a therapist to work on their self-esteem and work through any trauma. Registered dietitian. I'm a qualified nutritionist. I'm not a registered dietitian. An eating disorder specialist. I've sent a client before to another group, which is eating disorder specialist, support groups, GP or doctor. But you can speak to me and I can send you in the right direction or give you help and support. Getting help is not failure. It's just support. So emotional eating is usually a signal, not a character flaw. Your body is not the enemy. Your brain adapted to cope. You can build new pathways. Compassion works better than punishment. You don't heal your relationship with food by going to war with yourself. And one of the biggest things I've seen for women that I've worked with in the past 7 years is once you start working on your self-esteem, the emotional eating will just reduce because you become more confident in who you are. You don't need to use food for comfort. Another tool that I always use with some of the girls is that, you talk about the scarcity thing. a lot of things come down to control and how you feel and in control. And I talk night and day. So one thing I think I talk about the most is planning your week. And people might be like, oh, that's so rigid and anal, but it's actually just a way for your brain to take away like control. So you're not there when you've had a bad day, you're stressed, you're hormonal, you're perimenopausal, you're feeling like crap, you've had a shit night's sleep, and you're like, oh, what do I eat? Oh, I can't be bothered. I'm just going to eat loads of chocolate. If you've planned in a decent meal, but then plan in some treats, plan in snacks. And when you feel in control and you've put in the plan, you're going to enjoy it more. You sit, you enjoy, you indulge, and you know it's part of the plan. And planning things in is sometimes more important than it is not sometimes more important, it is more important than having no treats. You need to plan treats in. You're not going to just raw dog no treats or anything, because that is restriction. So you need to plan them in. Mine are always on the weekend. I plan a good treat in and I enjoy it. But I never used to. I used to do it guilt-free. I used to hide everything or not have it or not buy it. And now I have it planned, and I can actually, it's really annoying, but for you, I can have things in the cupboard for weeks. Still actually got a Stroop waffle in there. I bought them about 3 weeks ago. It doesn't bother me anymore because I'm in control and I plan it, and my body doesn't feel restricted. It's not like it has to grab it whenever it's available. It's available all the time. I'm just not having it today. So I hope that helps you. I hope it gives you some insight into overcoming any emotional eating or triggers. Like I said, my door is always open. Please message me, Instagram, Facebook, and email, and we can have a chat. And if it's just something that you want to, get a handle of, definitely my program would be the right fit for you. I've got spaces at the minute on my 12-week program, the Glow Up, fantastic, drop a dress size, overcome emotional eating, never diet again, and guaranteed results. And I've just had my first group of ladies pass through, and they've done fantastically. So I can't wait to share their results with you. But for now, have a good week, and I'll speak to you soon.